you lonesome this Christmas period, all by yourself? One truly is the loneliest number, but why? And most importantly, what can we do about it? Welcome to the Chrissy B Show, the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health and well-being. And today we're talking to our experts about loneliness during the holiday season, and educating us on the matter is Dr. Audrey Tang. And someone to talk about loneliness is survivor Kenny Mamarella D'Cruz, who tells us how a childhood of assassination attempts and death threats led to serious mental health issues. Severine Menem gives us a nutritious feel-good recipe that will warm you up when you're feeling lonely. And at the end of the show, I give you my tips on how to feel less lonely this Christmas. Now, according to the Campaign to End Loneliness, feeling isolated is an epidemic that has serious physical and mental health repercussions. Loneliness increases the likelihood of mortality by 26%, with studies comparing consistent social isolation as the same as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. The situation gets worse the older we get, with 17% of older people being in contact with family, friends and neighbours less than once a week, and 11% in contact less than once a month. Age UK states 2/5 of all older people say the television is their main source of company, and with that harrowing information there, what do you on Twitter think? Unspoken Word says the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. Honey stating some hard-to-hear thoughts: never allow loneliness to drive you into the arms of someone you know you don't belong with. Carl says, loneliness has always been a friend of mine. Trap Vibe says, I'm a really affectionate person once you get past my 5 layers of shyness, awkwardness, fear, vague dislike, and loneliness. So some interesting thoughts there. So what does our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, have to say about the mental implications of being alone during the holidays? Well, here she is. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So what's your take on loneliness?
Actually, I really like a definition of it that was around in the 80s by researchers called Perlman and Peplau. Mm-hmm. They said that loneliness is a subjective feeling of sadness caused by a lack or a loss of companionship. And I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it. They go on to describe loneliness a little bit more by saying it can be emotional loneliness, so it can be that feeling of sadness relating to one specific person, often a family member, a spouse, someone close, or a social loneliness, which is just that feeling of general companionship. What I also think is quite interesting is that loneliness is sometimes confused with social isolation. And in terms of that, people who are socially isolated can certainly be lonely. However, you can also feel lonely when you're surrounded by lots of people. And so because of that, social isolation is not the only reason for being lonely. It's a much more complex feeling. So the other thing that I've recently learned about is loneliness tends to relate to the elderly, and it tends to be because, say, around Christmas time, it might be they're missing their families, people have gone abroad, all of those sorts of things. Yet it does seem to be affecting millennials a lot more, and that really surprised me. But the reason for this is largely social media. The fact is, a lot of these millennials are growing up in a time where so much is played out on social media, and what they're finding they have to do to get likes, because it's almost that addiction to people liking what they're posting, is they have to be posting the right sort of pictures in the right sort of places, doing the right sort of things. And with that, what happens is they've ended up spending all of their time that they want to spend with people they love, with people who are giving them the photographs that they want, and they may not have that connection with them. And so, although they may be serving the social media aspect of what they want to do, they're not actually serving the internal or the psychological or the emotional side of themselves, and that's quite worrying,
isn't it? Wow. Audrey, now you mentioned Christmas time.
Yes.
Apart from obviously maybe family going away and stuff like that, why else? Why do people feel so lonely, especially during the festive period?
I think that sometimes it's what is going on around us. A lot of the adverts are very much family orientated. People seem to be very much, it's a time to see family, it's a time to spend time with those that you love. It's that concept. However, research from helplines. They've actually said that they don't have an influx of calls over Christmas. There's not a massive difference. So it might actually be, we believe people may feel more lonely at Christmas, but it might just be people aren't reaching out, but we're not sure. It's just quite interesting to hear that it's not spiking.
Okay,
or anything like that.
Okay, and also, does loneliness lead to other mental health issues, do you think? Yes,
it can lead to physical and mental health issues. A sad thing that I read in a book called Learning to Care, and this was back in the 80s, is that sometimes people who are lonely will do things such as subscribe to junk mail just so they can be sure that they haven't been forgotten.
Oh, wow.
They're getting someone with their name on them, and that's just one of those things that it's always moved me. And you know, you think about that and think, wow. The nice thing is there are a lot of campaigns now, such as the Empty Chair campaign, bringing people in. And whilst that does deal with some of the issues surrounding loneliness as a society, it doesn't yet deal with the ones that I've mentioned with millennials, the ones that I've mentioned about social media. And there is now that desire to post, I'm having the perfect Christmas, and that's not just millennials, that can be families too, and so that's added extra pressure on them.
What do you think people can do to maybe alleviate those feelings that might come?
There's a few basic things, and actually eat well and exercise. So do try and get some hours of sunlight. I know it's a little bit cold now, but try and get out there because that natural sunlight's really good for us. There is also a bit of a tendency to overindulge if we're on our own because there's no one there checking on us. Don't make assumptions, actually. It might well be that some people enjoy the solitude. So don't just assume, you know, you're on your own. I really...
Why? I just want to stay at home and just relax and stay with my hubby and just...
Well, and that's the funny thing, because sometimes, and this is something I found out relatively recently, for the first time my husband and I decided to go away for Christmas, and it was all of this break the news to the family.
Oh dear, how did that go?
Yeah, well, my parents are always away themselves, so it didn't matter to them. But this was the first time my husband was away, and then we found out that actually they all went, oh, that's really good. I can see my friends now. I can go somewhere else. We were just, well, why didn't we know that earlier? So don't make those assumptions. Just because someone is on their own doesn't mean that they're lonely. It doesn't mean they have to be invited out. But if you are on your own and you do want to socialise, then volunteer. That's a nice thing you can do. Don't say no, you know, just agree to invitations, go out, make plans for the future. So it might be, oh, well, I've got family in New York, I've got family in Texas or whatever it is. Make plans to go and see them, book that flight, actually get out there. And one thing I read recently, which I loved, you can even have an online forum Christmas. So, if you talk to other people whilst you're having your Christmas meal and you're online and you're all kind of chatting in that way that people do when they're playing virtual reality games or that sort of thing, it's great. It's another way of doing it, and you don't have to leave the house. So there are lots of things you can do, but look after your health is the main thing, because we do overindulge otherwise.
We do. We're going to try not to this year, but okay, we'll see what we can do. Audrey, thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Now, we love collaborating with our resident experts, especially on causes close to our hearts. And here, we're doing the MHD challenge with autism expert Anna Kennedy at Hillingdon Manor School with their enthusiastic group of students. Let's take a look. Everyone, today we're here at Hillingdon Manor School, and I'm here with Jonathan Barron and Anna Kennedy, and today we're going to be doing the MHD challenge with some of the students that you can see behind us. So first of all, we know Anna obviously from our show. She's one of our resident guests on the program, but we've not seen Jonathan before. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, Jonathan?
Sure. My name is Jonathan. I'm the teacher for Autism with Attitude Dance Group. These are some of the students that I teach. We've been operating at the school for about 4 years, but we started very small. So we had an after-school club for an hour, and we only started with 4 students, but now we've grown to over 30 students that I try and take out as much as possible. We do Autism's Got Talent every year for Anna Kennedy. They've auditioned for Britain's Got Talent. They performed at the O2 Arena. And this year they went to a competition known as UDO, and they competed in a category called Over 18 Beginner. They were the first special needs team to ever take part in the event because it's very mainstream orientated, and they came third. So because they came in the top 3, they've qualified to represent the UK at the European Championships next year in Germany, which we're working towards throughout the year, and they're going to be the first special needs team from any European country to go in and represent their community and their country at this competition.
For me, because I love dance, it's just like, it's a dream come true. Because when we first started the school in 1999, I started just doing some of the dance classes with the children, and it was a lot of fun and I loved it. I did it for about 3 years, but then I had to give it up because I just was doing so many other things. I just couldn't fit it in. But it's fantastic, and it also helps them with their social interaction, increases their flexibility. It's just definitely something to do to increase confidence.
Okay, so I'm going to speak to some of the pupils now to see what they've been liking about doing the MHD challenge. So who do we have here? Hiya, what's your name?
My name is Kai.
Nice to meet you, Kai. So you've been practicing the challenge. What do you think of it so far?
It's actually really fun because you can express like emotions through the dance, and like if you're angry with it, you can like put a lot of power into moves.
Hello, how are you? What's your name?
I'm James. Well, most of the time what I like about dance is that I like to be challenged, and most of the thing is, tricks, and actually some people might say it's boring, but actually when you get to start learning new things, it's actually a bit fun.
And someone said you learnt it quite fast at the dance, is that right?
We've been learning quite fast, but practice makes perfect, and hopefully it goes well.
And who do we have here?
I'm Sophie.
Hi, Sophie. So what do you enjoy about dancing?
The only thing I enjoy about is that I could get the moves correct.
Do you love sort of the different types of moves that you have in the dance that you're taught here?
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing the MHD challenge with us. Have you been excited about that?
Yeah, I am very excited.
Me too, because I'm actually going to join in as well. Watch this space. Okay, thank you, darling. And who do we have here?
We have Darren.
Darren. So tell us what you like about dance, Darren.
It's fun, and you get to do tricks and stuff like suicides.
Okay, what can you show us one?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, wow! Have you had fun doing the MHD challenge?
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really good. Yeah.
Okay. So shall we give it a go, all of us together?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So everyone, we've had a great time here at Hillingdon Manor School. As you can see, these pupils are excellent dancers. We've had a really good time in spreading the message about the MHD challenge, and we'll see you again soon. Thank thanks very much to everyone at Hillingdon Manor School there. And if you would like to take part in the MHD challenge, which of course is the Mental Health Dance Challenge, all you need to do is visit our website, chrissybshow.tv, and click on the link there to get all the information that you need, including the tutorial for you to learn all the moves. Well, don't go away, because after the break, I talk to survivor Kenny Mamarella D'Cruz, who tells us how a life of assassination attempts and death threats led to serious mental health issues in his adulthood. But first, what percentage of adults aged over 52 report poor health and lonely feelings at the same time? Is it A, 19%, B, 59%, or C, 89%? Find out the answer after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your TV program for all things related to mental health and well-being. Now, before the break, we asked you what percentage of adults aged over 52 report poor health and lonely feelings at the same time. Is it A, 19%, B, 59%, or C, 89%? The answer is B. According to the Campaign to End Loneliness, 59% of adults aged over 52 who report poor health say they feel lonely some of the time or often, compared to 21% who say they are in excellent health. Well, now we're going to be welcoming back on a lovely guest that we had on the show a while ago, and that's Kenny Mamarella D'Cruz, and he's going to be telling us what he's been up to with regards to International Men's Day and what he's been doing since he last appeared on the show. Welcome back to the show, Kenny.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and that's that's a huge statistic.
It is, isn't it? It's very worrying.
Yeah. I'm 53 now. 53.
Wow.
And it's a huge issue with the people I work with, especially with the men I work with, is irrespective of how many people they're surrounded by or how cool and funky life seems to be, there's a loneliness, there's a not being met, there's a where do I tell the truth and who can hear me, and you know, and for a lot of people it started from a very young age. I'd say for me it certainly started at a very young age.
Yeah. You went through quite a lot, didn't you? I mean, and you did tell your story last time, but we have a bit more time to go into it in more depth this time.
Right.
And as I said, for the benefit of our newer viewers that didn't see you before, we'd like to know all about you, what happened, what led to your mental health issues, and how you came through. Can you go through that for us?
I'll try for the nutshell, and you can pick me up on the interesting bits. So I was a nice Catholic boy. I was born in Uganda, and my family are from Goa. My parents were born in Africa. So my grandparents went from Goa to Uganda, and we had a very old-fashioned Portuguese upbringing, so Catholicism and all of that. And we had the most wonderful life in Africa. And then trouble came with Idi Amin, and my grandparents went to Goa, which was then part of India, to find that property had gone, there is nowhere for us, Goa doesn't exist anymore. And then we got on the death list. So we had a phone call one night saying, we're going to come and kill you tonight. Before that, we were followed, our phones were tapped, there was a lot of gunfire. There was a lot of shenanigans going on.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8.
8 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
how was it affecting you at that age?
I was a very, very aware 8, and I think my awareness, when my grandparents left for Goa, it was heartbreaking for us as a family, because they were the parents. They took care of everyone and everything. And my grandmother trained the cooks to cook for us, so we were quite helpless. And I remember my mother, my aunt, even my father, there was a huge depression. So we were all abandoned by the parents. And as an 8-year-old, I realized very quickly that the only place for me, especially with the depression and the desperation that was going on, was to step up and be an adult, almost be a replacement parent for my mother so she can cope, not be a problem, because there are big problems going on. Who needs a needy kid when our lives are at stake?
It's amazing that you were so mature at that age to even think about these things, Kenny, because
I'm not sure
you had to grow up fast, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I sat down and thought it through or whether it just happened. I've got no idea.
Yeah.
But I feel that when the chips are down, then it's all hands on deck, or at least that's how it was for me. And I was 8, I had a 5-year-old brother who I absolutely loved and kind of felt like, okay, I need to take care of him, I need to take care of everything. And children do that. I think a lot of children, if, say, their parents split or something goes wrong or what, it's like, what did I do to make this happen? And I don't know if I blamed myself, but I was certainly on duty to somehow make things right. And also, I would say that I was quite a mummy's boy. I was, from a very, very young age, special to my mother, my godmother, my grandmother, which on one hand, you know, people say the golden boy is the elevated special one. On the other hand, it comes at a huge cost.
Yes,
and
pressure.
To an extent, it's the cost of my life, my spirit, the responsibility for the emotions of the women, so everything's okay and they're safe. So as a mummy's boy, again, it's suddenly I'm older and I need to take care. So that was already going on. So things got hairy, things got very nasty. And we needed to suddenly go into hiding. And I remember staying, after we got the phone call, the people that worked with us and my father and uncle went around the front and the back of the house for some reason to find the people that wanted to kill us, or, you know, it was just an instinct maybe. So let's check the place out. And then we left that night. We stayed with my aunt and uncle. They had high security where they lived. And I remember being in bed and hearing footsteps go around the house and the torches being shone on us. And I never knew if it was the people who wanted to kill us or check that we were alive that were shining the torches.
Horrible.
But again, it was just, I guess in a strange way, it was our normality. It was what was happening, and we didn't stop to think this is horrible. It's like,
you just got on with it and just...
Exactly.
So what actually happened that night then? What, in the end?
We stayed away. I saw my home one more time before leaving. And I remember I was a very good boy. And I remember I had a minor tantrum because it wasn't safe to be home. And I wanted my teddy bear. His name's Dougal. I still have him.
You do not. Do you?
Yeah, I do actually.
Should have brought him on.
And I can't believe my wife took one look at him and I introduced Dougal to Angela and she said, but it's a cat. Like, you shatter my childhood with one comment like that. Yes, it is a cat, but that's not the point. So minor tantrum, I got my teddy bear. And that was the end of my home. No more church, no more school, no more anything. We were just in this bubble and there was a lot going on. I remember one day in particular, all hell broke loose. It's written about, my mother's written a book since we last met, so it's being edited, and she wrote about this incident. I remember the day very clearly where if you weren't carrying a certain branch or you didn't have it in your car, then you'd probably be shot. In those days, if there were 2 or more people standing and talking in the street, then you'd probably be taken away and beaten because it's conspiracy against the government. If you looked at anyone being beaten or anything nasty going on, then because you witnessed it, you're in trouble. So people would just disappear and things would happen. My father couldn't bear, he was working in he was the head of the parcel department for the Uganda Post Office. So he knew things that were going on. He got to know people that were on the death list. He did a lot of good for a lot of people. And people were only allowed to take private possessions out of the country. So if the soldiers, who were all drugged up and high on power as well, saw that people were taking more than they should have, maybe they're going to sell it, or maybe they're being greedy, or whatever it is, they'd take them in the back room and they'd beat them to a pulp. And my father couldn't cope with this, so he did things to try and calm things, to stop the violence. He got people out of a place where people disappear and they're never seen again. So it wasn't obvious to him, but I guess in hindsight, obviously we'd get on the death list. So we got on the death list. People did come around that night for us more than once. And we were lucky to get away alive.
Wow. Kenny, how did all this affect your mental health? Later on, you know, growing up a teenager and then into adulthood as well.
I guess it was post-traumatic stress disorder. So we left my father in Africa and he was smuggled out on execution day. I ended up with obsessive compulsive disorder, body dysmorphia, body dysmorphic disorder, Tourette's, trichomania, where pulling hair and picking. I'd poke myself with a compass and things like that. I guess it was relieving tension. It was trying to be in control. And I wasn't in control when we were in Africa. I certainly wasn't in control when we were in refugee camps, and we didn't speak any of the languages that were being spoken, and we were quite different. So I couldn't control and provide and protect. So I guess it all went inside. Yeah. And I didn't realise until I was much older that I kind of, with all the internalisation, that there was a low-level depression. So my father came to the UK 9 months later, and he helped to run 3 refugee camps in Italy, and actually even organised a hunger strike because food and apparently tobacco was being withheld. And he just thought, well, wait a minute. So he got everyone to do a hunger strike, so they had enough. When he came to the UK, he helped to run a refugee camp here, and he heard about a small town in Wales, away from the cities, full of nice Catholic, Welsh, Irish, Italian people, and we were kind of used to that. And that was our new home, and we were so accepted and incredibly well treated. And we were oddities. A lot of people had never seen people of colour before. So there was that going on. And again, not wanting to be a problem to the parents and to normalise things. And strangely, because I was being useful, I remember that was the first time I considered suicide as a child, thinking if they had one less mouth to feed, it might be easier.
Gosh. Kenny, we're going to go to a quick break, but you are going to stay on to tell us about what happened afterwards and actually what you're doing today to help men especially open up about what they've been through, because you did consider suicide. I know there are many others that, you know, these thoughts do pass through their minds every single day, and they don't know what to do with those feelings, they don't know what to do with those negative thoughts. And sometimes it's just, or always, actually, it's always about reaching out and getting the right kind of help. But it's that kind of getting over that fear of speaking about it in the first place. But you're going to tell us how you did it and how you're helping other people to do that. And also, guys, after the break, we're going to be speaking to our resident nutritionist, Severine Menem, on some foods that help to lift our moods when we're feeling lonely. And she also answers your nutritional questions, including this one. Is gluten really that bad for you? There's so many arguments that it's good for you, bad for you, and frankly, I just don't know what to believe. Find out the answer after this break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. So before the break, I was talking to Kenny Mamarella D'Cruz about his life growing up, the trauma that he went through. And Kenny, you actually finished on the part where you said you were considering suicide because it was one less mouth to feed for your parents, and you thought the world would be a better place without you, especially for your family.
I certainly thought they'd have an easier time without me.
Yeah.
And it was, the fantasies of a child is, well, I'm taking stuff, I'm a problem or the problem, would it be easier? And it passed because I was useful and we all needed to survive, and they didn't need that on top.
Yeah.
But the thing about suicide is, I've worked a lot with suicide, I've worked a lot with mental health. I've worked with people who have been through similar things that I've been through.
Yeah.
And I know that what I needed was to be met, to learn to exist, and to be able to articulate things, to talk them out of me so they could pass. Without passing, I was holding onto them, pretending they weren't there, bricking on top of my emotions, bricking on top of my past, and kind of like trying to move forward while I've got this huge shadow that I'm dragging around. And it's the shadow that needs to be talked about. So to cut a long story short, I came back to the UK after travelling for 5 years, and I guess I was trying to run away from my shadow and having adventures, and I didn't realise I was running away. Yeah. I came back to find most of my male friends were really into their power or their partying or their professions, or they were chasing money or whatever it was. Drugs, alcohol, love, sex, it was just like the fixes. And while I lived in Sydney, I started running groups, mixed groups, and talking and listening.
Okay.
So I got about a dozen blokes in my lounge and basically said, I don't know what a men's group is because I've never been to one, but I'm starting one now.
Okay.
And the reason I'm starting one is I need to be met at depth. I don't need this surface stuff. That's all fine as well, but I need to be met at depth. Now, that was 16 years ago. And 2-3 men who were there 16 years ago still come to groups, but now it's out of my lounge. I run 8 groups a month. I've started training people to run their own groups to take into their own communities.
Yeah.
And I've got this together, which is basically, you can download this from my website, mensgroups.co.uk, and quite simply, ground rules, check-in round. Here's how to listen and talk and run your own groups and communicate about it. And, there's this whole thing about man up. What is man up? For me, man up is man up and talk about it, or laugh about it, or cry about it. But whatever happens, just let it be an old story rather than carrying that story around, and let all that pain pass. My wife said to me, you can't heal what you won't feel. And for me, talking about things, it's like, well, of course I'm going to feel them. It might take a few times and I might need to get into the depth of it. But we talk about things and we can sit with each other and listen to things rather than try and upstage or fix or whatever it is, or say suppress it and have another drink. It's just hanging out and talking and being there, and it's not all
and being
sad
given
and
the permission to do that. And I'm glad you said actually what man up means for you, because sometimes when we hear man up, it's all about like, oh, just get over it and get on with your life and stop worrying about silly things. But that's not, you can't do that. When you've been through some kind of trauma, when you are depressed and you're going through something, you can't just snap out of it, or else you would, because no one wants to feel like rubbish, do they? They don't intentionally want to feel like that way. It's just there until you get the right kind of help, until you start talking about it. So I like the perception that you have, what you're saying that man up is, because it is about that conversation and getting those things out in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And to go back to what you said earlier on, yes, I was 8 years old thinking those thoughts. And I guess for a lot of my adult life, I have still been that 8-year-old surviving boy pretending to be a man, where for me, as a man, I don't survive. Boys know how to survive and boys don't cry. Men can meet life and respond and can have emotions. Men cry. Men laugh. Men can meet life and create things. But as a boy, I just kept playing the same role, attracting trouble to survive, because that's what I knew to do. So I find that the men can come and end old chapters, who they no longer need to be, and really start living a new life full of goodness and peace.
Definitely. Brilliant. Kenny, thank you so much for coming back on to share your story.
Thank you so much for inviting.
And please do keep in touch and let us know how it's going.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Brilliant. All right, guys, so now it's time to go over to Severine Menem for our nutrition segment. So here to show us an alternative to a festive recipe that will help stop those lonely moods is our lovely nutritionist, Severine Menem. Hello, Severine.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you, my darling?
I'm great, and yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. So obviously a lot of people do feel a bit lonely, especially if they're spending Christmas by themselves. Although some people love it, but some people don't.
Absolutely.
Right? you like a lot of company at Christmas, don't you?
Some company, yes.
Yeah, some company, but not too much. Don't overdo it.
No, not too much.
Okay, what we're going to be making then, this is an alternative to something more festive, the more traditional stuff.
A recipe that I thought would be great if you have to spend Christmas by yourself, so that you don't spend too much time in the kitchen and have too many leftovers, but at the same time you have something really healthy and tasty and you feel like, you know, you're having a really good time.
Okay.
So it's healthy pot noodle.
Okay.
Shall we start?
Yes, let's start.
Good. So there are two parts to it. The first one, we're going to prepare the rice noodles and the vegetable, basically. So it's a very balanced meal because you have some grains. These are rice noodles, about 50 grams.
Okay.
Oops. So I'm using a glass container so that it looks nice. You see what you're putting in there, but also it's very easy to add the water. And then there are some proteins. I've chosen some chicken here, but you can use prawns or tofu or turkey or any type of protein you like.
Okay.
And as for any balanced plate, you should have like a lot of vegetables. Okay. So I like to have at least 4 ones, some red and some green, and ideally some orange. But today I didn't have any carrots, so I brought.
Okay.
So today we have some red pepper, very high in vitamin C. We've got some Helda beans, some French beans, and some spring onion.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to...
So you don't actually have to cook them before, you can just put them in like this?
Well, my preference is to have crunchy vegetable, but apparently it's a French thing. But if you don't like them that crunchy, you can pre-cook them.
Okay.
Like steam them, it's always better because...
Trying to escape.
Yes.
Oh, it's another one?
I'm a bit slow. So you can prepare that and then use it later. So, you know, you just store it like that in the fridge for 1 day or two. So that's one part. And the second part is the dressing. So we are going to use some 1 clove of garlic. That, for me, that's the best ingredient for winter because it's antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. So you're pretty sure that if you have some garlic at every meal, you're not going to get sick.
Okay.
We're using 1/4 of a lime. Pretty much the same property, but it has vitamin C on top. So.
Okay.
And it really changed the flavor of any recipe. Have you noticed?
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I love garlic in food. And lime.
I was talking about lime, but yeah,
yes.
garlic does. Okay, so then I'm adding also 1/2 teaspoon of what is it?
Ginger.
Ginger.
Can you use fresh ginger as well with this?
Yes, you can. That's even better. Everything fresh is always better, but you. I didn't have any, so.
Okay.
1 teaspoon of sesame oil.
Sesame oil?
Sesame oil.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that good for you? Then.
Yeah, it's a good oil.
It smells nice, doesn't
you have to be careful with sesame oil because it's a very strong flavor.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, then you have to go slowly. 1 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon again of this one is sweet chili sauce. So it's to add a bit of sweetness, but not too much. And the last one is 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, but I'm using tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce.
Okay.
So a tablespoon is 3 times a teaspoon, so that's 6 of it. 1.
It smells so nice, everything together, doesn't it? Wow.
4, 5, and 6. And again, you can prepare that on the side and just use it whenever you need it.
Okay.
So you mix well.
And everything nice and fresh, that's really...
Yes, and when you're ready,
put it into the magic pot.
Pour that. And then on top of it, Oh, actually, I forgot sugar. We could add sugar, just a tiny bit, but because the chili sauce was already sweet, I think we don't really need that. And you pour boiling water on top. So I'm trying not to add too much boiling water so that it doesn't dilute too much. And then you have to check the instruction from the rice pasta. This one takes about 5 minutes to cook.
Okay.
So you just leave it for 5 minutes. I like to put the lid back on, not close it because otherwise it would create pressure, but yeah, and that's it.
Okay, so we're going to leave that for 5 minutes, Severine, until we answer some questions from our viewers. Okay. And if you guys at home have any questions for our nutritionist, all you need to do is email us on nutrition@chrissybshow.tv. So the first question, Severine, is gluten really that bad for you? There are so many arguments that it's good for you, bad for you, and frankly, I just don't know what to believe.
It's a great question. Really good question. Gluten is one of these ingredients that can be good for some people, but really bad for other people at the same time. And it's one of the biggest allergens, I would say, at the moment. So for people who have celiac disease, obviously they have to remove gluten from their diet. Otherwise, if they have gluten, then the body attacks itself and then it creates lots of other conditions. So really bad. But for most people, I would say, at least in my practice, I realize that people have some kind of gluten intolerance, and the best way to see if it's actually a problem for the person is just to remove gluten from their diet for about 2 weeks. It won't create any deficiency for 2 weeks, and you see how it goes. So if you have some massive withdrawal symptom, or if you feel so much better after 2 weeks, it means that maybe you're eating too much gluten, or gluten is not for you.
Okay, all right then. Brilliant, thank you. And the next question, this person's asking, I've got IBS and I swear all the Christmassy foods are bad for it, like stuffing and alcohol. What can I eat this festive season that isn't going to leave me feeling bloated?
This is a really hard question because when you've got IBS, everything that you eat around Christmas is foods that are actually triggering symptoms, like anything with broccoli or onion or cabbage or fried and fatty foods and food with gluten or dairy or alcohol or fizzy drinks or chocolate.
Anything.
So it's really hard to suggest some really healthy food unless you prepare from scratch.
Okay.
And usually people who suffer from IBS know about which food triggers their symptoms, so they have to be very careful and just ask, what are the ingredients of what they're having, and just choosing some better option.
But what could you prepare from scratch though, if you do have the time to do it and you would like to do it? Is there anything that you could recommend? Maybe they could make.
Well, I would say usually they know what they can have. And it wouldn't be too much different from
what they usually have.
Exactly. Yes.
Maybe just put some holly on the side or something and just make it look a bit more festive. I don't know.
It doesn't sound very positive, but I think when you have some intolerance to food, you always try to make it the best you can, and up to which extent you can go. And the fact that it's Christmas means that either you're going to indulge yourself in food that are triggering symptoms and then suffer from it, or just know that it's best for you to keep to the usual food. So
I think but I think even you can't have certain things, but I think you can maybe still perhaps make an effort with the way it's presented, or just to make it a bit more special. Maybe what do you think?
Yes,
just to so it's not so I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't have a good time, but you can still treat yourself.
No, I agree, but I would do that every day, not just for Christmas. That's why, Oh yes, I have a very nice table and more flowers and more, nicer napkins and so on.
And maybe make Christmas not all about the food. Because I feel that's how we are sometimes, isn't it? It's I love food. I know Severine loves food as well, don't you?
Yes.
I love food so much. But sometimes it's I think we can maybe put a bit too much focus on that, and maybe that's not a good thing. So maybe especially around Christmas time, if you do have maybe these kind of intolerances, don't make it about the food.
Make it
about family or something else, just something different.
Dancing, and presents,
something different. I hope that's helped our viewer. Okay, should we see our noodles?
Oh yes,
thanks for those questions, by the way. Smells really good. It might need a bit longer, right? But we can maybe leave this and try it during the break.
Yes.
But it's a lot healthier, isn't it, than all the ones that you just buy, the ready-made ones,
definitely.
And that have so many additives and
absolutely, you're in control of
MSGs
100% of the ingredients.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, that smells lovely. We'll try that during the break.
Yes.
And Severine, we'll see you again next time.
Great, thank you.
Well, everyone, don't go away, because after the break, I give you some tips on how to feel less lonely at Christmas. But first, who feels lonelier? Is it men or women? Think you know the answer? Find out if you're correct after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today we've been talking all about loneliness, especially during the festive period. Now, before the break, I asked you who feels lonelier. Is it men or women? The answer, women. According to Age UK, a higher percentage of women than men report feeling lonely some of the time or often. Now, we love to hear from you, our viewers, and before we crack on, here are a few of your most recent comments. Now, this one's from Rosa, who is talking about our show Homeless to Celeb Hairstylist, featuring some great guests with the inspiring Bradley Smith. And she says, loved your show, Chrissy. You have a real knack for interviewing. I noticed how different you were with each person. You seem to really blend with their personality and their role. Congrats to you on doing a great job. I would love to interview like you someday. Thank you so much for that comment. And Maximilian loves our resident expert, Ronald Delari Simpson, who talks about nutritional benefits of certain foods. And commenting on our pet dilemmas, improving taste buds and makeovers and more show, he says, very nice, Ronald, learned a lot just now. And we also learn a lot every time Ronald comes in. So thank you very much for all those comments. We love receiving them and featuring them on our program. And if you'd like to send in your comments, you can just post on the video that you like on YouTube, or you can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. So before we go, I have a few minutes just to go through a few of my tips on how to feel less lonely during the Christmas period. So the first point is, ask yourself, is there a reason why you're feeling particularly lonely this Christmas? Is it because maybe you're spending Christmas without someone, maybe there's been a death in the family, or you broke up with someone, or even someone you love actually moved away? I would say it's quite normal to feel sad during this period because you are missing them. Probably you're thinking to yourself, oh, this time last year I was with this person, or this person was around. So obviously it's going to be a bit of an adaptation period, I would say. So first ask yourself, is there anything that's actually happened? The next point is, are you just following tradition? So maybe you are actually okay with being by yourself, but you feel like you should be with people just because it is the holiday season. So, I mean, it can be quite stressful being with lots and lots of people, and maybe depending on the circumstances, it's actually better for you to be alone than not. So don't let sort of like the pressure of, oh, it's the Christmas period, I shouldn't be on my own, I need to be around people, make you feel like you should be when actually you're okay being on your own. And the same, you know, for point one, if there is a particular reason why you might be feeling sad, because maybe you're not with certain people that you were before, well, okay, but can you still have fun? Can you still be okay with being on your own? Don't let kind of like the season itself affect you, if you see what I mean. The next point is, make an effort for you. So, I mean, we did kind of mention it with Severine earlier, but if you are going to be on your own, cook a nice meal for yourself anyway, set the table nicely, treat yourself because you deserve it. And maybe plan something special to do on your own to get out of the house. You could even consider doing things that you used to do as a child, like watching children's films or something. So just treat yourself. Don't be like, oh, I'm not going to do anything because I'm going to be on my own. Why not? You deserve it. You deserve to have some fun as well. And the next point is, avoid drinking, because if you're drinking because you feel lonely, this is the wrong reason to drink, because it can actually lead you to feeling even more low. So make sure you find alternatives. And another point that you could do if you are feeling a bit lonely is to actually volunteer. So remember, there are so many people out there, so many organizations that need help, especially over Christmas. So if you are on your own, you don't want to be there by yourself, do something for other people. There's nothing that beats giving to someone, giving of your time, giving of your love, your effort to help someone else. It really does make you feel good, and probably it's going to be the best Christmas you've ever had. And lastly, remember, it's just another day. So don't get hung up on all the fuss about one day a year where so many people, for example, have lots of accidents, they drink too much, they have lots of arguments, they get into debt. I mean, you know, there's so much pressure put on people to have a particular kind of Christmas, and for some it's actually a huge pressure, and it doesn't go according to plan. It doesn't always happen the way they want it to. So remember, it's just one day in the year. If you know, you don't have to get hung up on the traditions and everything else that this time of year suggests you should do and be. Don't get hung up on that, and just remember just to always look after yourself every day and have fun every day, not just on one day of the year. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Until next time, bye-bye for now.